Chosen one, before you scroll past. Pause. Not everything labeled spiritual is meant for everyone, but this was placed in your path for a reason. If you are here looking for entertainment, for quick comfort, for something that will make you feel good without asking anything of you, this message was not written for you. You can keep moving. But if you have been silent for longer than the world thinks you should be, if you have been giving without anyone refilling you, then you did not find this by accident. If you have been faithful in ways no one has applauded or acknowledged, you were sent here. There is something heaven needs you to understand about the season you have been walking through. Not the season others saw from the outside. Not the version of your life you had to explain, defend, or justify to people who never stayed long enough to ask how you were really doing. The real season, the one that happened quietly, behind closed doors, in the early hours, in the space between what you showed the world and what you actually carried inside. Heaven has been watching that version of your life, and what it saw changed things. This message is not for the person who has been loud about their faith. It is not for the one who needs the room to validate them before they will believe they are chosen. It is not for the one who measured their spiritual life by how much attention it received. This is for the one who has been faithful in the silence. The one who chose integrity when no one was watching. The one who kept going when quitting would have been understandable, even justified, even merciful to themselves. If that is you, do not move. What you are about to hear will reframe everything you thought your silence cost you. If you have been carrying something in silence, type the word faithful in the comments below. Not for anyone else, not for the algorithm, just as a quiet declaration between you and heaven. And if this message is already stirring something in you, subscribe to Chosen Pathfinders and tap the notification bell. These messages are not sent at random. They arrive at the right time, to the right soul, by design. Before we go deeper, send this to one person who has been waiting in silence far too long. They need to hear what heaven says about their season. Now let me begin by telling you what the world saw when you went quiet. They saw defeat. They saw someone who had run out of fight. They saw a person who had accepted a smaller life and stopped reaching for something more. When you stopped defending yourself, they thought you had lost. When you stopped chasing what was never truly meant for you, they thought you had given up. When you stopped explaining yourself to people who were never genuinely going to understand, they assumed you had simply accepted being overlooked. They watched your silence and built a story around it. A story about someone who tried and failed, about someone who had faded, about someone the world had quietly moved past. Some of them whispered it. Some of them thought it while smiling at you. Some of them never said a word, but you could feel it in the way they stopped asking about your life. They settled into the comfortable conclusion that you had simply plateaued, that this was where your story leveled off. They were wrong, every single one of them. Because while the world was watching what you were not doing, heaven was watching what was happening inside of you. Heaven does not measure a life by its volume. Heaven measures a life by its depth, and depth is never built in noise. You were not silent because you had nothing left. You were silent because you had learned something most people never learn. That not every battle deserves your voice. That not every wound requires your reaction. That not every door that opens in front of you is the right door for you. You learned to trust the process, even when the process felt like punishment. Scripture speaks to this directly. Isaiah chapter 30 verse 15 says, "In quietness and confidence shall be your strength." Your silence was not the absence of strength. It was the very thing building it. And the silence was not empty. You filled it with things that the world cannot see and cannot measure. You gave when no one was watching. You served when no one asked how you were doing in return. You showed up for others in seasons when you were barely holding yourself together. You prayed in the dark. You held yourself upright in rooms where no one checked if you were okay. You made decisions from integrity when compromise would have been so much easier, so much more comfortable, so much less costly to your reputation or your relationships. You forgave in silence, not because you were weak, but because you chose your peace over your need to be vindicated. You chose the health of your spirit over the short-lived satisfaction of being right, and every single one of those moments was recorded. Heaven keeps records. Every sacrifice made without recognition, every act of faithfulness that went unwitnessed. Every time you chose the harder and quieter path, it was all documented. None of it was missed. None of it was overlooked, not one moment. The night you cried and then kept going anyway. The morning you woke up and chose to show up for something that was not showing up for you. The time you chose kindness when cruelty would have been so much easier to justify. All of it. Recorded, witnessed, held, and then something shifted. There came a moment, recently, when your silence reached a kind of fullness, like a vessel that has been filled slowly, steadily, drop by drop, day after day, until it could hold no more. You did not announce this moment. You did not post about a breakthrough. You did not wait for someone to notice that something inside you had changed. You simply kept going. One more day, one more decision, one more act of faithfulness in the quiet. And that kept going. That quiet, stubborn, unwitnessed faithfulness. That is what moved heaven. Heaven was not shocked that you were faithful. Heaven had always known you were capable of faithfulness. What moved heaven was how long you stayed faithful without being rewarded. How long you kept pouring out without anyone pouring back into you. How long you remained rooted when the storm should have taken you long ago. That is not ordinary. That is rare. And heaven does not let rare go unrewarded. Now, chosen one, I want to help you understand something that most people will never fully grasp in this lifetime. Your silence was not just endurance. It was not just survival. It was one of the most powerful spiritual acts a person can perform. Most people speak to be heard. Chosen ones learn to be still so they can hear. There is a difference between a person who is quiet because they have nothing to say and a person who is still because they are listening for something greater. You were never the first kind. You were always the second. Think about what happened to Elijah. He had just come through one of the greatest spiritual moments of his life. He had seen fire fall from heaven. He had stood against a crowd that wanted him gone. And then, when the pressure returned and the threats grew louder, he retreated into the wilderness. He sat down and said, "I have had enough." And God did not come to him in the earthquake. God did not come in the great wind that split the mountains apart. God did not come in the fire. God came in a still, small voice. 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 12. Heaven speaks in the register of silence. And if you are always producing noise, filling every moment with reaction, with the need to answer everything immediately, you will never hear it. There is something significant about the fact that God waited until the noise stopped before he spoke. He did not compete with the earthquake. He did not raise his volume above the wind. He waited, and in the waiting, Elijah finally had to stop running, stop performing his grief, and simply be still enough to receive what was being offered. Your season of quiet trained your spiritual ear in a way that nothing else could have done. You can now hear what others around you cannot, because you stopped letting noise drown out the quiet instruction being given to you. The enemy understands this. That is why he prefers noise. Confusion, urgency, panic, constant reaction. These are his preferred tools, because noise keeps a chosen one from hearing the direction that would dismantle everything he has built against them. Every time you chose stillness over retaliation, you were not retreating. You were stepping into a frequency the enemy cannot access. You were operating in a dimension he does not have jurisdiction over. Now consider this. Silence is also a form of consecration. Something set apart for a holy purpose is always kept quiet first. It is protected. It is covered. It is not put on display before it is ready to withstand the weight of being fully seen. Seeds do not announce their growth. They work beneath the surface, in the dark, in the hidden place, before anything visible appears, above ground. Gold does not refine itself in the open. It is placed in a furnace, in heat, in pressure, away from every casual observer. The most powerful foundations in any structure are the ones you never see. They are underground, invisible, but they are what the entire weight of the building rests upon. Your silence was not abandonment. It was consecration. You were being set apart, hidden, covered, prepared for something that required you to be built properly before it could be released. The people who did not understand your withdrawal were not supposed to understand it yet. They were not part of what was being prepared, and their confusion about your season does not diminish the purpose of your season. The word says this clearly. Lamentations chapter 3, verse 26. It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. You were not hidden from your purpose. You were being hidden for it. That is a distinction that will take some people a lifetime to understand. And there is a third dimension to your silence that I want you to carry with you. Silence is the language of the deeply rooted. Think about the trees that survive the worst storms. They are never the loudest ones in the forest. They are the ones with the deepest roots, the ones that have pushed down further and further into the earth, season after season, finding water where others gave up looking. Your silence grew your roots. Every disappointment you processed quietly, without broadcasting your pain for validation. Every betrayal you held without letting bitterness consume your direction. Every prayer you whispered at 3 a.m. when no one was there, and the only witness was heaven itself. Those moments are roots, deep, invisible, unimpressive to anyone watching from the surface. From the outside, deeply rooted looks like this. Still, unmoved, apparently unchanged. People look at the surface of the tree and think nothing is happening. They do not see the roots pushing deeper into the dark. They do not see the quiet, underground work that makes the tree impossible to pull out when the wind finally comes. But the enemy knows the truth. You are not unchanged. You are unshakable, and there is a difference. There is a difference between someone who has given up and someone who has grown up. You grew up in secret, in silence, in sacred preparation. And now, chosen one, it is time to understand exactly what that growth set in motion. Understand what your sustained silence and sacrifice activated in the spiritual realm. Not one moment of it was wasted. Not one prayer was lost. Not one act of faithfulness went unregistered. Here are the 10 things your silence set in motion. The first thing your silence activated was divine protection over your spirit. When you chose not to speak in anger, you closed an access point. What you did not release in reaction, the enemy could not use against you. Every word you held back, the ones that would have felt satisfying in the moment, but would have cost you deeply in the spirit, became a seal around your inner life. Your restraint was not weakness, it was armor. The second thing your silence activated was the breaking of agreements with delay. There is a spiritual agreement that says you need external validation before you can move forward. You need someone to confirm you, to applaud you, to recognize you, before your calling can begin to move. Every time you kept going without that validation, you were dissolving that agreement. You proved that your worth was not dependent on being witnessed. And when you proved that, delay lost its legal hold over your life. The third thing your silence activated was exposure. Not of you, of others. When you stopped performing, people shifted. Those who were drawn to what you could produce revealed themselves by leaving when the output slowed. Those who were drawn to your spirit stayed. And the ones who revealed themselves were not punishing you. They were freeing you. God was aligning your circle with your next season, and that alignment required truth to surface first. Pay attention to who remained. Pay attention to who disappeared without explanation. Both groups were giving you information you needed. The fourth thing your silence activated was healing from the inside out. There is a kind of healing that cannot happen in noise. Wounds need stillness to close properly. When you are constantly reacting, defending, explaining, processing out loud, certain things inside you never get the quiet they need to mend. Your silence was not stagnation. It was surgery. Deep, necessary, slow, invisible surgery that no one around you could see taking place. Psalm 46, verse 10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." That stillness is not passive. It is the active state that allows heaven to move inside of you without interruption. The fifth thing your silence activated was spiritual authority that no one can argue with. Authority built through noise is fragile. It depends on the performance continuing, but authority built in silence, through faithfulness, through integrity, through sustained rootedness over time, that kind of authority is unshakable. You did not convince anyone with words. You simply became someone whose presence carries weight, and that kind of weight cannot be faked, cannot be copied, and cannot be debated away. The sixth thing your silence activated was protection over your assignment from premature exposure. What is revealed too early is often destroyed before it can fully form. The enemy studies what is visible. He targets what he can see. Your silence kept your assignment hidden, not from God, from everything that would have come against it before it was strong enough to withstand the pressure. Heaven kept you quiet because your calling needed time to become something that could not be cancelled. And now, it is. The seventh thing your silence activated was the cancellation of spiritual attacks that had been directed at you. Words spoken over you in jealousy, in anger, in bitterness, in quiet competition, those words carry weight. They are sent with intention, but silence, spiritual silence, creates a frequency that those words cannot land on. What was sent toward you found no place to attach itself. You were operating in a protected register. You were covered in ways you did not even know you needed. This is why some things that should have broken you did not break you. This is why situations designed to destroy your direction only deepened your roots instead. The eighth thing your silence activated was training for the leadership you are about to step into. The leaders heaven trusts most are never the loudest in the room. They are the ones who know how to hold space when everything around them is falling apart. The ones who can speak a single word and shift the atmosphere, because the authority behind it is not manufactured. You have been in that training, without a formal teacher, without a program or a curriculum, in the most demanding school there is, the school of faithful silence. And the credential you walk away with from that school is not a title. It is a character. It is a settled, tested, proven inner life that shows up the same way whether anyone is watching or not. That is what heaven hands authority to. The ninth thing your silence activated was the accumulation of spiritual interest on every seed you ever planted. Everything you gave without recognition. Every seed you put into ground that looked like it would never yield anything. Every sacrifice no one acknowledged. Heaven was compounding it. What looked like loss from the outside was investment from heaven's perspective, and investment accumulates. Galatians chapter 6 verse 9 says, "At the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." You did not give up, and the harvest is now being prepared for release. The 10th thing your silence activated was positioning for a sudden, unexpected shift. Heaven's rewards do not always arrive gradually. Sometimes, because the preparation happened entirely in private, the breakthrough is released all at once. and the people watching from the outside will not understand how it happened so quickly because they never saw the years of invisible work that made it possible. Your silent season was not the story. It was the preparation for the story, and that story is about to begin. Heaven does not hold back forever. There is a time for the seed and a time for the harvest. The season has changed. Here is what is now being released into your life. God is releasing your voice, but not the voice you had before. A new voice, one that has been purified by the silence you walked through. Before this season, you may have spoken quickly, out of emotion, out of need, out of the anxiety of being misunderstood before you finished the sentence. What comes out of you now will be different. Not louder, clearer. The silence burned away the parts of your speech that were driven by insecurity, by the need for approval, by the urgency of being heard before being dismissed. When you open your mouth in this new season, rooms will shift, people will lean in. Not because you are performing, because you are carrying something real, and the difference is unmistakable to anyone paying attention. God is also releasing visible fruit from the invisible work you have been doing. You planted seeds in ground that showed no signs of life. You watered things that gave you nothing back. You continued to believe in a harvest even when the field looked empty season after season. That is about to change. What you planted in the dark is about to break the surface. Things you had stopped expecting will arrive. Doors you did not knock on will open. Connections you did not engineer will form. Recognition will come from places you stopped trying to impress, because you finally stopped trying and started simply being who you were built to be. God is also releasing restoration, and this is one I need you to hear carefully. Nothing you lost during this season was final. Nothing you poured out was wasted. Nothing you survived was pointless. Restoration does not always look like returning to what was. Sometimes it looks like receiving something greater than what you lost, in a form you never imagined and could not have designed for yourself. Joel chapter 2, verse 25 promises that God will restore the years that were consumed. That promise is not a historical record. It is alive. It is active. And this is your season of it. What was taken will be returned, not as a replica. As something greater, God is also releasing divine relationships into your life. The silence filtered your circle. The people who needed something from you that you could no longer sustain left when the season shifted. The people who needed to stay showed you who they were by staying when it cost them something. What comes next are people different from anyone you have walked closely with before. People who are drawn to your depth, not your productivity. People who can sit in silence with you without growing uncomfortable. Who will celebrate your growth without secretly feeling threatened by it. These connections will not feel like maintenance. They will feel like rest. You will recognize them by the peace they carry and the space they give you to be fully yourself, without performing a version of yourself designed to make others comfortable. They arrive with peace, not pressure. God is also releasing clarity of purpose. The confusion is lifting. The fog that surrounded you during the silent season was not punishment. It was protection. It kept you from moving in the wrong direction, while something essential was being built inside of you. But that fog is clearing now. You will begin to sense direction with a precision that may feel unfamiliar after so long in the uncertainty. Trust the nudge. Pay attention to what pulls your spirit rather than what appeals to your ambition. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 6 says, "In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight." Straight does not mean effortless. It means clear, and clarity is what is coming. God is also releasing provision that arrives through channels you did not build and cannot take credit for. Your faithfulness in giving, in serving, in sacrifice, even when it cost you something real, something that genuinely hurt to release. That is a seed with a harvest attached to it. Heaven tracks this with a precision that exceeds any accounting system the natural world has produced. Do not be surprised when provision arrives, through channels you did not open, from directions you did not anticipate. Do not shrink from it because you cannot explain it in terms others would understand. You planted in ways the world was never equipped to see. The harvest will arrive in ways the world will struggle to explain. God is also releasing a peace that does not numb you but anchors you. This is not the peace of having no problems. This is not the peace of circumstances cooperating and life suddenly becoming easy. This is the peace that holds you steady while the difficulty is still present. The peace that passes understanding, the kind that makes no logical sense from the outside. Old triggers will begin to lose their grip. Old fears will feel smaller than they once did. Old wounds that once dictated your reactions will begin to lose their authority over how you respond. You will find yourself responding where you used to react, choosing where you used to be driven, resting where you used to be restless. And finally, God is releasing a public season after a very long private preparation. Matthew chapter 6, verse 6 says that what you do in secret, your Father who sees in secret will reward openly. Your hidden faithfulness built something that cannot be dismantled by criticism, by competition, or by the opinions of people who never took the time to understand what you were doing or why. It was not built by human strategy. It was not built on visibility or momentum or the right connections made at the right events. It was built on faithfulness alone. And that is the only foundation that holds under the weight of real, lasting elevation. You were never forgotten. You were never overlooked. You were never misplaced. You were being formed. And heaven is now ready to present what it has been building. Chosen one, let me speak this plainly to you before we close. Your silence was never weakness. It was worship. It was warfare. It was wisdom. Every season of silence you walked through built something in you that a comfortable, applauded, externally validated life never could have produced. You were being made into someone who can carry weight without being crushed by it. Someone who can lead without needing to be loud. Someone who can hold peace in the middle of chaos because they know where their roots go. You came through something that would have finished many people, and you came through it with your character intact, with your faith still breathing, with your spirit still reaching towards something greater. That is not a small thing. That is everything. Do not apologize for the season you came through. Do not explain your silence to people who never once asked how you were doing while you were inside it. Walk differently from this moment forward. Speak with the weight of someone who has been forged in the quiet. Move with the certainty of someone who knows that heaven has been working on their behalf in ways they could not see and did not need to see. The waiting is not ahead of you. The waiting is behind you. The reward is not coming. It is here. If your spirit received something from this today, write these words in the comments. I was faithful in the silence, and heaven saw every moment. Let that be your declaration, not for the attention of others. As a seal placed over this word in your own life, and if you are not yet subscribed to Chosen Pathfinders, do that now. Tap the bell so you never miss a message designed to find you. Because if heaven sent this one your way, there is more where this came from. You do not want to miss what is next. Until next time, Chosen One, walk covered, walk certain, walk knowing this. Heaven never wastes a quiet season. Yours was always building toward this.